Welcome back to the IROC Business with Confidence podcast, where we uncover the secrets to monetizing your passions while keeping your budget in mind. I'm your host, Cori Fonville Foster, transformational speaker, certified business coach, trainer, and CEO of IROC Marketable Business Solutions. In today's episode, we have a special guest joining us, Fludd. Fludd is a podcast coach, podcast host, and the charismatic personality behind the hit show Just One Question. He is also the founder of the Minority Podcast Networking Community and the Podcast Networking Community. Lion's mission is to elevate communities and provide resources to those who may not otherwise have access to them. Today, we'll be diving into the topic of networking through podcasting. Discover how podcasting can be a powerful tool for building connections and expanding your network. Fludd will share his insights, experiences, and strategies for leveraging podcasts to connect with like-minded individuals and reach a wider audience. Get ready to learn valuable tips on how podcasting can transform your networking efforts and open doors for collaboration and growth. Let's welcome Fludd to the show. All right, so we are back. And so we have our guest with us right now, Fludd. I'm so excited that you are here today. How are you doing today, sir?
I am excellent beyond belief. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you here because I feel like we're friends. Like I got to be on your amazing podcast, Just One Question, and I had a ball doing that podcast with you. So I'm super excited that you could come and now talk to my audience because I call you the podcast guy. Like, you know, all things podcast, how to show up amazing and how to give a really great show. So I'm excited that you get to talk more about how to leverage one's podcast with my audience today. So let me give you a chance to introduce yourself. So tell us a little bit more about who Fludd is and why are you the podcast guy?
You got it. Thank you. So thanks to everyone out there listening. Hold on, let me see if I can switch on to my smooth, sultry voice to bring in those listeners a little bit more. So I am Fludd. I am someone who at the core heart of it all, it's someone who absolutely just enjoys people, trying to help people grow and glow and watering their plant seed in their gardens to scale from where they're at to where they want to be. That's me in a simple nutshell. And podcasting, I got into it primarily for a therapeutic reason. It started during the pandemic. My wife and I just needed an outlet of some sort. We bought a mic. We didn't know anything about podcasting. And we found out by talking into the mic, we were actually growing and talking to each other without knowing it. So it was very therapeutic for us. Then we branched off and she does one, I do one, and then we do one together. And that's my simple process of getting into the podcast world.
That's amazing. I love that you said, would you say grow and glow or
yes.
Yeah, so that's super cute. And that you do it with your wife. I could never. I could never. I literally lock my husband out when I am doing any kind of podcast or business stuff. But I love that that was something that you and your wife could do together. So tell us, what has been one of the most rewarding parts of doing podcasts so far?
Yeah, that is such a great question. For me, the most rewarding part is learning more about myself, about other people who I speak with, and then also the growth within my family. Because my son, who's 9, he starts a podcast as well now. And it's such a joyous thing to see him come out of his shell in a sense. Because he sees us doing it. So he's like, I want to do it. And we're like, I don't think so. But he kept asking. So we saw that he was persistent and he really wanted to do it. And I think that's probably the most satisfactory thing, is to see my family and I bond over it and grow together with it.
That's amazing. So one of the things, as a person who does podcasts and who has been on many podcasts, some podcast episodes are super fun. They're engaging, they're conversational. And then some feel like I'm just waiting for it to end, right? So what is something that you could tell us? Like, how do we make sure that our podcast is enjoyable for not only us, but for our guests?
Great question. I love this question because this is one of the things when I do my coaching programs that I dive into. And I tell anyone who's wanting to get into this, you've got to let go. you've got to let go of any preconceived ideas that you may have of thinking, I already know what to do. I already have this. You're in a different realm when you're in podcasting because they can't see your face. Sure, you can do a video, but podcasting at its core is audio. So you have your voice, you have inflections, you have to make sure that your guest is prepared also. And I think sometimes if someone has already had a podcast, they're not at a point where they're thinking to themselves, I need to prep my guests. I need to talk to them before. They think, oh, they'll just show up, I'll ask them a few questions, and it's going to just flow and go exactly the way it's supposed to. Practice. Get in the mirror and practice is what I tell everyone. I used to take cutouts from like a magazine, faces, and I would put them up on a wall or a screen, and I would look at each and every magazine face and go scanning left to right to the middle, talking to each person. It may sound silly, but it works. And so I think that's one of the best ways to tell someone to try to make their podcast fun and enjoyable is to learn more about who they are first. Because if you don't know who you are, then you can't know who your guest is going to be. You can't know how to work with them. And you're going to probably end up just being dry and just, it's just boring.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I actually was talking with a client recently about like, don't be afraid to do podcasts because a lot of times they do that part about like pre-interviewing or that pre-conversation. And so could you tell for the viewers who have maybe not been featured on a podcast or for those thinking they want to start a podcast, what is that pre-interview or that little chit chat before the episode starts to record? What is that like?
Yeah. So here we are. You and I were sitting down for what some may call a coffee talk. I call it a connection call. I just want to take about 10 minutes, 15 minutes just for us to vibe and see how we're going to flow together. Not everyone who comes on is going to be on my podcast, nor are they going to maybe want to be. Maybe our goals don't align, right? So I'm not going to directly ask them any set questions. Question number one, I want to know what's your favorite color. No, I want to just see how we talk and flow because my podcast is not the interview style. Next question. It's just let's talk and whatever subject comes up. I've got an outline, but I also just want to talk for 10 to 15 minutes to see if you and I can have a conversation where we're not just okay, what's your favorite type of food? Like you're on a date, right? You're on a date, you're sitting down at the table and you don't know what to say to each other. So that's what I would say. Just take 10, 15 minutes and just see if you like each other.
I love that. And I think that it takes a little bit of the stress off of it because you're like, well, what if I tell people I want to do a podcast and I want guests, but what if I don't like my guests? Or what if they're not the right fit? How do I convey that? And by saying, hey, I'm going to do this quick chat with you to see if it's a good match, kind of lets you relax and say, okay, well, they know that it may or may not, be the best fit, or I may or may not air it. And I think that that's fair for both parties. So I want to get a little deeper for those who maybe already have a podcast. What are your feelings around maybe monetizing a podcast or getting sponsors? Like some people want to get paid to do this, do this thing that they're doing. So give us any ideas or thoughts around that.
Yes, man, that is such a great question. And that's usually the biggest thing that people come to is, well, how can I get paid and everything? And I'm like, you got to put in some work first, right? This isn't just you're going to start a podcast and then you're going to get paid. And a very interesting thing that really happened is I had an episode released today, for an example. And when I listened to it, because I always go back and listen to our episodes and make sure everything's kind of good. And we had a sponsor come on, Amazon Music. And it was almost like that you watching an old Temptations movie and they get to hear their song on the radio for the first time when they're driving in that car and they're excited. And I'm like, what? Amazon Music sponsoring the episode? But that took time. It was not something that's going to just come overnight. Plus, there's so much more work that goes into than what you may be thinking. I use this just kind of a phrase, an analogy, and I break it down with my students, is that the streets aren't made for everyone. That's why they made sidewalks. And what I mean by that is everyone wants to be a millionaire or everyone wants to, make sure they can get their podcast monetized, but they aren't willing to put in the work for it. So you may just need to walk on the sidewalk, right? The streets are for people who are tough and mentally want to get it. And ultimately, I mean, I can give you all kind of advice and paperwork and emails to send out, but you got to get your listenership up, because why would someone want to pay you? This is the ultimate thing. Why would they want to pay you to advertise if you've only got maybe 10, 50 listeners? It's not worth their time or effort.
I love that. The idea of like, yeah, the streets aren't made for everyone. I agree. I think that because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm always telling them like, it's a marathon. Like it takes time. You have to stay consistent. You have to show up. You have to give value. And podcasting is this in the same vein of that, of like, yeah, you can't do 2 episodes and say, why aren't people paying me? Why aren't people listening? Well, you got to give them a little bit more for a while so that they know that if they keep listening, you're going to keep showing up for them with great content. So I love the idea. Yeah, some people need to be on the sidewalk and realize that's where they are. And when they're ready, they come on the street with us. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to think of like some of the hurdles that I know people are going to say is stopping them from starting, right? So do you feel like people need the most expensive mic and camera? Like what do they absolutely need to have to get started to podcast?
That is one of the biggest questions I get whenever someone comes and says, I want a podcast, right? Listen, you can get started with just a cell phone. You can record your stuff and then you can upload it to one of your platform hosts. But I separate it into maybe just 2 categories, right? Are you wanting to do this just as a hobby? Or are you intending to make some money and grow, or even if it isn't directly money, but just you want to be top notch? Eventually you're going to need to start to invest. And that doesn't mean you need to get the top of the line microphones, right? You can just get a microphone that's 60. Samsung is one or Samsung, excuse me, is one I recommend, $60, or a pod mic, which is $99 usually. Those are great mics, but you need to learn the difference in condenser mics, which is a whole nother story. I won't go into that versus like, some, like I use a Shure SMB7, but you do not need the most expensive thing. I tell anyone who wants to start, just record, press live, go, start ugly, right? That's the first step you got to do, is you just got to say, wake up in the morning and say, my hair isn't done, but I'm going to go outside and get the mail. You just got to go get it. Start, and then start working and building, and then start investing. You can even do something as small as one of the things that I used to do is it's a system called Buy Me Coffee, or there's another app called Gift Me, right? Tap into your community and say, hey guys, look, I'm really trying to start this. Can I get some people to contribute $5-10? And I'm looking to buy me a mic, right? That's another small way, but you do not need any professional equipment. But eventually, if you want to scale, you will.
I love that. Kind of starting small, get what you can get now, and then build up. I think that's just such great advice for someone new, because people are always saying, well, I don't have the money to invest, or I don't have the tech skills. I'm sure someone was listening and started hearing some of those terms of the mics and just was like, oh no. But guys, realize he's been in the game for a while. He's not new to this. He's true to this. And so you got to realize he has a lot of knowledge. And the cool part is that you can connect with him, right? You can ask him questions. That's what he's here for. I love that I got an opportunity to pop into one of your, I think it was like a networking type of podcast things that you were doing. Yes. You know what I'm talking about? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I felt like, wow, this is such a cool thing where people who are doing podcasts can like connect and learn.
Absolutely. It's one of the things I wanted to do, because I believe in the system that we don't know what we don't know. And if no one ever teaches us, we just get out there and say, I want to do this. I'm going to Google something, YouTube it. But sometimes you need coaching. And I'm going to tell you, it's not free. If you want to grow, then you have to spend, right? Scared money doesn't make money. So, but also people can't do that. And what I decided to do is say, you know what, let's do a networking where other podcasters, other people who are interested can meet monthly. It's free. It's on Zoom. We just kind of network, and here's my business card. Someone says, I'm a podcast editor. Someone just asked a question, said, I don't know how to get rid of a sound that's on my background. Well, we have people in the group who can do that. And it's just a networking event. It's laid back. It's no pressure. Just come and join. It's within our group, Minority Podcast Networking Group. That one has about 300 people. I also run another group that people don't know about. It's called the Podcast Network. That one has 26,000 people inside the Facebook group. But they're specifically set towards different things. But the monthly meeting is simple. It's just a fun networking thing. There's no pressure. You don't have to come and talk. You can just come and listen and learn. But it's free information. It's just the same thing that I do in my paid coaching classes, except it's just a little bit watered down because you didn't pay me and I want my money.
Look, nothing wrong with that, guys. And I think that you got to go into the mindset of understanding you get what you pay for. So I love the idea of that you had that free networking group. Like I said, I got a chance to listen in, and there was really great value that I should have had to pay for. So let's be clear. He's saying watered down, but it's still stuff you should have had to pay for, but you're kind of getting to be a fly on the wall and hear some amazing, great questions and have questions of your own around podcasts. So I think it was amazing. And I'm a part of that minority podcast group. So I love that there was a place for people who look like me, who maybe have some of the same challenges as me, being able to do this thing called podcasting together. So I definitely want to thank you for that. So one little thing I love to make sure I always ask when I have a podcast guest is, what has been one of your biggest hurdles in business, especially when it comes to around like podcasting, for you or a client that you have served?
Yeah, man, we're getting into it now. One of the biggest hurdles that I or anyone that I work with, I would have to say it is, okay, when I say this, you're going to probably, anyone listening is probably going to say, it's cliche, right? But it's getting over yourself. It's that imposter syndrome type of feeling. I know people say, no one wants to hear what I have to say. No one will listen to me. You've got to get past yourself first and then start working to build out, because I don't care if there's a million people that listen to an episode. If only one person is affected by it and is helped by it, that to me means that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So that's the first thing, is just getting over your mindset to say, I don't know what to say. Then get a coach. That's my number one thing. When people say, I don't know what to say or how to do it, get a coach. Work with someone, YouTube it, do whatever, but get a coach. Someone that's going to break down for you step by step, so you can say, I can save myself 6 months of going through the heartache and pain that you went through, right? I'm going to save you that time and say, nope, that's not where you should put your episode at, or how you should structure it. And that's not how you do your show notes. But that's the number one thing I have to say is they have to get past their own mindset of they are not able to do it.
I love that. Look, some of the things you're saying just are like, yep, that's what I tell my clients when it comes to the business side. And I think podcasting is truly, if you're doing it for real, it's just like having another business, right? Because you can monetize it, you can do all the things with it. And so you have to understand, just like you may have imposter syndrome in your business, in your professional life, that happens in podcasting too. But I would say, hey, do it scared. Get out there and get it done, learn. Because one thing I've noticed is the podcasting world is super nice. Like, I have not encountered a really mean host. Like, I always tell my clients, they want to have a great episode. They don't want to see you fail. So don't go into it thinking they're trying to make me look like a fool or anything like that, because I haven't found that to be true. Well, maybe the Breakfast Club, they might get you, but most of you are not on the Breakfast Club. So I just want to say thank you so much for all of that amazing information. Before we go, I of course want to say, do you have any final parting words, tips, strategies you want to give the listeners? And then we'll definitely close out after that.
Yeah, kind of end with this and saying, I had a research and I go to conventions. Even I, who've been in this for a while, I still have coaches. I still go to my coach and say, here's what I'm running into, right? I just recently read an article by the Edison Research Group. They did it for Black podcasters. And I cannot tell you guys how much that money's being put into podcasting right now for research, for trying to get people out here. And they said 82% of listeners say they are foaming at the mouths to hear from other Black podcasters or other people who look like them, because it's dominated by a white podcasting industry for the most part. And they listen and they want to listen. So if you're thinking about getting into podcasting, thinking about expressing your voice, think about it like this. It's your radio station. No one's going to censor you in a certain way. It's yours. Get out there, find a coach, find someone you're comfortable with, and just start. Don't wait 2 years and then say, I wish I could, because you're going to be falling by the wayside.
That was amazing. Well, thank you again for coming. If you guys are interested in getting coached by Lion, please let me know. It will be in the show notes, and I will make sure that when we post it to YouTube and all of our other visual platforms, it is there for you guys as well. This has been an amazing interview. I love getting to talk to you. So again, thank you for being here. And guys, we will see you for the next episode.